If you thought the 123 GTs were rare and you thought the P1900 was rare, they only made one of what I'm about to show you. And it's not really an official one. An engineer at Volvo came up with this monstrosity. From Volvo in 1985. Let's take a look. In 1985, Ronaldo was in Solvang, California, at a bar, and he spotted this lifted Volvo out back. So he inquired within and asked the lady, "What is that?" "You want to buy it?" she replied. The story goes that her husband was caught in an affair with one of the waitresses, and this big car just happened to be in his wife's name. $1,000 later, it belonged to Ron. He drove it back down to LA and later received a phone call from one very irate and very confounded husband. Ronaldo, in perfect gentlemanly fashion, invited him to come down to LA and dance. But old husband must have twisted his ankle one too many times to take up generous Ron's offer. The story continues that the engineer at Volvo, for our purposes we shall call him Dr. Frankenstein, pitched this prototype to the executives in or around 1984, and they shot it down so hard that he quit in protest and took his monster with him. Somehow a Swede ended up in Little Denmark, California, where his creator could disappear into obscurity and booze in the years that followed. Allegedly, some paperwork exists on this car with info and schematics. Registration involved Interpol, and nothing but tough love and adventure were in its future. Drive it like you hate it, am I right? So what is Frankenstein's monster? Well, it's this really weird hybrid of Volvo parts and Swedish folklore. It's a 164 front end, which is a little bit longer to accommodate that inline-6 B30 engine, and has a full 140 interior with a 240 rear end. Now all of that on top of a Volvo 4x4 frame, likely one of those all-terrain vehicles that Volvo created for the military and certain heavy-duty civilian use. Did you notice that it has 2 doors? I mean, Volvo had myriad versions of its cars for special use, as is typical for manufacturers as they supply hearses, ambulances, utility vehicles, and military service vehicles. But of all the variants, Volvo wagons never came in a 2-door setup. Not ever. Wagons never even came in the 164 model trim either. There are some custom ones where people have put 164 front ends on a 240 or a 140, but this, from the factory, truly one of a kind. Now keep in mind, the Volvo 160 was available from 1968 through 1975. This monster is a whole decade later, so the body is a bit outdated for what Volvo was evolving into in the 1980s. But the longer engine bay did make room for that inline-6, and the successor to the 160 was the 260 series in the late 70s. Now, this 260 had the infamous PRV engine, the Peugeot Renault Volvo Collaborative V6, which had reliability problems, and I'll admit some success stories from Le Mans all the way to the DeLorean. And this was also called the B27 and B28 engine, and it made somewhere between 123 to 140 horsepower based on the type and the fuel injection or the carburation. Now the Monster 4x4, if it ever made it to production, it is possible that Volvo might have just put the V6 PRV engine in it, and that would provide it with enough power to haul tree stumps, which it has. Oh, this car has not sat idle. Ronaldo says it has been well off the beaten path. It's taken 4-foot drops without a hiccup. It's been put to work as well as play these last 4 decades. They drove it everywhere, and it shows. Now it's getting ready for a proper restoration. They're slowly pulling it apart, and hopefully we'll be seeing more of it in the months ahead. To understand the monster more, I think we need to take a look at the Volvo Laplander series. In the early 1950s, Volvo received an order to develop a new utility vehicle for the Swedish Army. This was to replace the old, outdated TP-21s. This new vehicle became Sweden's version of the famous Mercedes Unimog. They started with the L2304 in the late 50s. It had a Volvo B16 engine powering it, which is not nearly enough power for 2 tons of fun. Then they made the somewhat improved L3314, beginning in the 60s. The L3314 had the 1.8-liter engine, a little bit more power, but still less than 100 horsepower in its configuration. Then the L3315, starting in the mid-60s, and I love this. The L3315 was soon nicknamed Valp, meaning puppy, for its clumsy looks. And that brings us to the C202, the civilian version of the L3314, which started in 1977. It had the B20, the 2-liter engine, a little bit more usable power, and it is also referred to as the Volvo Laplander. A more robust version, the C303, was the 4x4 military evolution of the 3314s and the 3315s, and the C303 also came as a C304/306, which were both 6x6s. That is super cool. Roughly 25% of the C3 series were in civilian use, like rescue services, electricity companies, private use, stump haulers, whatever. The remaining 75% went into military service. These were heavy boys, weighing 7,700 pounds as a 4x4, and from 10 up to 12,566 pounds in the 6x6 configuration, which were the ones equipped as troop carriers or with anti-aircraft missiles. Could this be any more exciting? Yes, there was even an 8x8 prototype made. Looks like the clumsy puppy grew some legs. Now, the C3 series had the largest available engine, which was, drumroll, that's right, the B30 inline 6, just like Dr. Frankenstein's lovable 2-door monster here, making around 125 horsepower and 165 pound-feet of torque. Still not much for the heavy boys, but it's probably perfectly adequate for the monster's 2 tons of fun. Now, I can't claim to know which frame or axles the monster has, but it's certainly reminiscent of the Terrangbil, or terrain vehicles of the 60s and 70s. It's too bad this vehicle didn't make it to production. Volvo must have thought that they just didn't have a market for it. And I'll be the first to admit, it is a bit extra. But little did they know, the 2-door 4x4 market would soon be transformed by the birth of some now iconic vehicles like the first Ford Explorer and the Toyota 4Runner. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, I just haven't.
Oh my goodness. I'm trying to compose myself here. So we're looking at it's a 240 body.
No, it's a 145.
It's a 145 2-door.
142 in here, and then a 164 front.
164 front, 142, and a 145.
And it's on a 2-ton military chassis.
That's fantastic.
So, I mean, you can just...
And this is all steel or any fiberglass?
Yeah, it's all steel. So they're going to...
What?
He did it all there at the factory. And I have all the schematics and everything he had hidden in it.
So for 1985, Volvo created this behemoth prototype, and this is the only one. So I had 2 carburetors on a B30 engine.
Yeah, it literally sat in the back, and I didn't realize it was getting that much moisture. Not here, it was in where.
Yeah.
So I pulled the carbs off last week. I just rebuilt this thing and drove it about 3,000 miles.
We got to get this thing on the road. This thing is amazing. Wow. The B30 is beautiful too. Mm-hmm. And there's so much space.
It just, oh my God. I have a video of this thing literally with chains around a tree, and it's going whoa until it pulled the whole thing out.
Yeah. Did you increase the size of the tires, or was that how they?
That's how much.
My goodness.
So it'll be level because I got to get that straight. It's. I took the knuckle off the front, but look at those knuckles. It's it's like you can, like when we go, and we're out, you just get on here and you jump up and down on this thing, and it's beefy.
I didn't even look. Does it have a sway bar in the front?
Yeah, I think they do.
No stabilizer. Just leaf springs everywhere.
Yeah,
That's the way.
Yeah. Okay. Well, while we're here, I just gotta give it a little bit of left to the 64. 64 wagon? 63.
63.
63. 62 is the first year of the wagon, is that right?
I think it was, yes.
Because they premiered with the B18.
Yeah, they have.
This has a B20.
There was only 1,100 of these.
Oh, man,
Now
that
there's
red.
like, I think 26.
That's the same shade of red that I think I've got. There's the gray heater. Check out the early seats, the early back seats wrapped around on the bottom in a really weird way. And there's the early stitch pattern. Funky hinges. Pretty cool. They're right in the middle of a carpet installation though, so that's kind of fun.
So that's good in there. But
This is so cool. It's the one that you can, it sets itself and then you lift it and it closes.
do you like that one or do you like the one in the metal?
I mean, we've conceived two-door wagons as like a custom one-off that somebody
It was so
has fun with,
kind
but
of fun because me and my wife used to we'd go all over. Like I have
this thing is,
Wow.
I have videos of this thing up in Big
Dude,
Bear,
I'm shocked.
just whoa, just going, and it sounds insane when it starts up.
is this car like a best-kept secret? Should people not know about it, or?
They can know about it.
'Cause-
I mean, this guy, I
Right?
used to.
I'm like, we hardly. It's weird. That's crazy.
What?
That it's actually like.
That it exists?
Yeah.
And there's only one, and
There's only
it's right
one.
here?
And we're in front of it.
On my body guys, he's really good. He's gonna just strip the whole thing down. It's gonna take about.
Do you have a, is there a chassis tag somewhere? I'd like to...
Yes, you know what it's registered as? So here's what happened.
Yeah.
So I paid her the money at the bar, and I'm f***ed up. And I'm like, I'll take it home tonight. And I gave her a check, and she goes, fine, fuck it, take it. So I take the car, and I'm driving back to Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
And I park the car. So I come back to LA the next morning, and her, Monday, and her husband calls me up, and he's like, where's my car? And I said, it's not your car. I said, you should have put it in your wife's name. It's my car now.
Oof.
And so I went to the highway patrol and I had them register it as a 56 Willys because they didn't know what it was. They're like, I don't know. And he goes, do you want to do smog? I said, no. And he goes, all right. So that's what they did.
What year was this?
86.
So this thing was brand new.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
it was
my
just
goodness.
cherry. But I mean, it's, you have to remember I put 600,000. I drove it like I stole it. Didn't care.
Yeah.
I was going to wear it out and redo it.
Yeah.
And we're like that.
That's fantastic.
Wow.
You never covet anything because you're going to die.
Life is too short to drive boring cars.
It has the rubber. Dude, that thing's crazy how it has it.
I want to know what axle this is, too. That thing's super...
It's huge. I mean,
Yeah.
I've literally dropped off of 4-foot drop-offs and it just goes like a dog.
Yeah, like the Laplanders, those big military ones that they make.
Well, this came
I wonder
from, I think this is Laplander suspension.
I wonder if they just put the axles on.
They did.
Because they made it even a 6x6.
Yeah.
Because
Open the hood one more time.
when I had to get the gearbox done, I had to order all the gears through Sweden and Geneva. That's how they found out I had it.
Oh, so what happened when they found out you...
So I had to go through Interpol because all the paperwork was from Europe.
Yeah.
So Interpol cured it. They cleared the whole thing, and so then I registered as a Willys. So then I dropped off the face of the map because there was no prototype Volvo car.
Yeah.
So then they were cool.
Did
But this thing-
Volvo ever send you any information on the car, or did they
No,
want to know?
they didn't have it. He hid it all in the back, so I have all the schematics and everything. So what happened was he went there and he said, we need to build these.
Yeah.
Like they said about the shoe.
Yeah.
And they said, no, nobody's going to buy a sport utility vehicle. Are you out of your mind? And then 3 years later, the Explorer came out, and Ford bought Volvo. So they could have,
Could have.
And so as a result of that, I've had like 50 Volvos. I get to go to Irvine when all the cars come out. Like I got to see the Polestar 2 and all that.
Yeah, we saw one
So
today.
I go down there in this one year.
People think it's all custom.
And this guy, Preben Klug, who's their engineer guy, he was like, what? And I said, I got to install it, And so they offered me all kinds back then. And I told them, no, it's not for sale. And so we're just going to, we're just going to do it.
Amazing.
It'll be fun.
So they basically took out the wheel wells or all the stuff from a 140
Yeah, they
and put in
took
the
the whole
square tubes.
Look at that frame.
Yeah.
It is insane. It's all steel.
And he did it at the factory. Ultimately,
Power steering.
it was mine, and then the guy never, He called me back a couple times and like threatened me when he was drunk, but I was like, you know what, bro? I grew up in Frogtown. You want to come down here? Come down here. We'll talk.
Dude, this is
We'll have a conversation.
Yes, I was gonna dance.
insane.
It is. It's like
It's one of a kind.
I have a dashboard for it, and so I'm gonna
Dual magic.
have that done there.
Are you done?
Not much for wheel arches. There's no Volvo number, no Volvo tag. This truly is a one-off car. There's the original upholstery. Adjustable headrests. Look at these pedals. A bottom hinged gas pedal, just like a lot of European cars had. But the mechanism's still up top. It's just a big pedal. And a brown carpet. This thing's fantastic. Well, let's take one more look underneath here. So much space. And look at this skinny little driveline. The big harmonic balancer. Or the Guibo, I think. It's a fascinating coupler. I can't really see what's going on with the fuel tank. But that transmission is probably straight out of the Laplander. Amazing. Alright, and the rear axle. The rear wheels, hubs. I wonder if it's got a locking diff. Can you guys identify what kind of diff that is? Here's the horns in the front. Looks like a little mud flap here, not much of it left, but I wonder if that spanned a larger portion of the under hood side, or if that's really just, yeah, a little bit of it is broken. It may have gone, I don't know if it would go all the way or not, but yeah. And those hinges are nice and smooth. Let's just close this. Okay. Last look at the fender. That's so cool. What size tires are we on, by the way, since these are original? 32 by 11 and a half, 15-inch rims, LT, 109S speed rating, BF Goodrich radials. Okay. There's that big horn. The shock absorber bolts right up to the frame. Gives you a lot of suspension travel with the leaf spring, and there's the brake line going right through the frame. Huh. I should give this another look inside just in case I missed something, but wow. Dude, this is super stiff leaf springs. A little aftermarket steering wheel. She's got headrests. Door panels have been removed, but let's look at the instruments there. Wipers, choke, the rear defroster, cigarette lighter, and the headlights with the accessory lights, probably all on one switch. The rotation, that rotating speedometer goes up to 200 kilometers an hour. 254,510 miles, amazing. Your warning lights in the middle. Volvo logo. Because it's an 85 and carbureted, but it still has the ignition lock here. It's basically a 140 interior, right? Not much about it. I wonder if this is an ashtray. Oh, look, an ashtray. Okay, fan motor, cigarette lighter, hazard switch. And there's your shifter. There's the 4-speed and the 4-wheel drive. And what's this cluster here? Couple of gauges that have been removed, but this is okay, an ammeter with the wood trim. Is this a vinyl? It looks like a vinyl. Yeah. Plastic everything, but it has black door cards. Looks like the odometer reset button. And this is a big radiator box, but back here, fun like diamond stitch carpet over the original brown panels. And the white headliner. No grab handles, no back seat, no seat belts, no frills. A huge pane of glass for the sides. Custom, no doubt. Behind the seat, you've got the wood, an emergency roadside kit. There's the seat belts. Uses this style belt. Look at the step to get down. That's so cool. And these huge doors.
Just tired of stupid fucking one.
I mean, that seals the deal for me. There's no emblem on the mirror, but you can see how they mounted it. 2 screws. The pinstriping even stops on either side of it. Boom. I see no tags, no identification on the panels. Look at that meaty latch. Spare tire's actually up here. Huh. So that you can keep your back clear, keep underneath the truck clear. Fantastic. I peeled back the cover a little bit on the rear because I wanted to see this thing. And wow. That's meaty. There's no better word for it. I'm so interested in all these connecting details too. There's a Volvo badge on the left. Original registration tag.
Here's what the original carpet did look like.
They added reflectors on the corners. The gas cap just
Go that way.
no fuel door. Truly a mammoth. What a great vehicle.